Why are today's cognitive elites moral illiterates? That's a question posed at the end of this book, The Sovereign Individual, Mastering the Transition to the Information Age, a book you may or may not have heard of. You see a preface by Peter Thiel. And The Sovereign Individual is about how new microprocessing technologies change our world. They allow people to have property that is digital and harder for the state to take away using violence, including the violence of taxation. It's a book about how the changing information order is changing geopolitics. It's changing the role of nation states and all kinds of things. But at the end, there's this very nice conclusion where they discuss more information, less understanding. Let me read that to you and connect it to the question of moral illiteracy among the cognitive elites. They say, as the barriers to transmission of information have fallen, there has been more of it, which is good. Okay, so you don't just have one channel from which you can get your information. You have many channels, including this one. But there has also been more confusion about what it means, what all this information means. The modern technology that helps liberate information from political controls and impediments of time and place also tends to raise the value of old-fashioned judgment. Old-fashioned judgment. The kind of insight that helps discern what is important and true from the mountain of facts and fantasies is growing in value almost daily. But the age of information has not yet become the age of understanding. To the contrary, there has been a sharp drop-off in the rigor of public discourse. The world now could know more than at any time in the past, but there's almost no public voice left to assess the meaning of events and say what is true. And so as the authors are discussing this, overall, they're excited about the transition to the information age. They're not excited about the lack of understanding, though. They themselves are the ones who say that the cognitive elite are effectively morally illiterate. And why that is the case is because they've been trained in technology, computer science, business, and all the rest of it, but they haven't been trained in good old-fashioned liberal education. They haven't read Plato, Confucius, the Bible. And that's an issue because all strong societies, as they write, have a strong moral basis. Morality is very important to society. But the science of morality has not progressed in the way that the science of computer technology has. The science of morality has not progressed in the way that microprocessing technologies have progressed. In fact, as they write, in science, 3,000 years completely changed what human knowledge is. In morality, we may actually have fallen back. The average psychotherapist probably gives the patient less good moral advice on how to lead his life than the average Jew would have received from his teacher in the period of Moses. And moreover, these two things are related, that science has progressed and morality hasn't. The destruction of tradition, they write, has been a necessary condition of scientific progress. So for science to progress, it had to destroy the traditional moral order. And yet strong societies need a strong moral foundation. So there's a conflict between scientific progress and the needs of a good political order. So to repeat, the destruction of tradition has been a necessary condition of scientific progress, yet the destruction of tradition has been a disaster to the moral order of the world. That's a problem. That's a big problem. At the end of their book, again, a book which is really full of predictions concerning the coming information age and not really about political philosophy in any obvious sense, although it does talk about state violence and diminishing returns to violence and things like that. But at the end of their book, they say something very important for us on this channel, okay? For me and for you here listening and watching. They say, what should you do? What should you focus your attention on? Now, if you're super wealthy, you have a lot of capital, maybe you're going to invest on the basis of the predictions they make in this book. But what about everybody else? And maybe even also what about the people who are investing, but they still want an understanding of where the world is going? What should you focus on? Should you focus on computer science and computer technologies? They say no. They say rather this: the problem with specializing in software or any other rapidly evolving field at the center of the information revolution is that your area of expertise could soon be outdated. This underscores the wisdom of the traditional liberal education. Okay, that doesn't mean watching MSNBC and listening to Rachel Maddow. It means liberal education in the classical sense. Okay, studying the classics, studying philosophy, rhetoric, political science. We're talking about Plato and Aristotle in effect here. first and foremost. Okay, this underscores the wisdom of the traditional liberal education, which aimed to encourage students to develop their critical faculties and thinking skills. Success in business, as in most areas of life, depends on being able to solve problems. If you can teach yourself how to solve problems, you have a bright career ahead of yourself, no matter where you live. Okay, because one of the things they talk about is the new technologies are going to allow people to exit their state system. So maybe you live in who knows where, but no matter where you live, you will find problems galore in need of solving. That's true. And in most cases, those who would benefit from solutions of their problems will pay you handsomely to affect them. So wherever you are, there are problems. There are people who will pay you to solve those problems. And how can you teach yourself to be an effective problem solver? Develop your critical faculties and thinking skills. And what's the best way of doing that? Wisdom of the traditional liberal education. Up to and including the most fundamental question that affects everybody, the question of the moral order of society, the moral order of the political community. So don't let yourself be one of those cognitive elites who learned everything that you need to know on the technical and technological side, and meanwhile became backward and illiterate when it comes to the fundamentals, the ones and zeros, okay, the blueprint, DNA, the pulsing, beating heart and soul of political life. For that, you still can't do much better than Plato, Aristotle, Confucius, and the Bible. All right, so I thought that was interesting. I wanted to share it with you. Those are some excerpts from this book, The Sovereign Individual, with a preface by Peter Thiel, Mastering the Transition to the Information Age, a popular book in Bitcoin and crypto circles. And that's where it was first recommended to me. I read it, and that's the part of it that I wanted to share with you. Thanks for watching. All the best.